Am I the a-hole for proving to my boyfriend the nerds never cared about the popular kids in high school? My boyfriend and I, both 25, went to the same high school. My boyfriend was talking about our high school days. He thought high school me would have been thrilled to date the popular guy because I was a nerd. Mind you, we're 25 and it's 2024. I played along for a bit until I realized he wasn't joking. He literally thought that. I told him that I didn't know he existed. He was surprised and said that he was a popular kid. He played football and was in the popular crowd. He said that I must have been lying. I told him that the nerds never cared about the popular kids in high school because we were fiercely competing amongst ourselves for college admissions. For a backstory on our town, my boyfriend was born and raised there, but I only moved when I was 13 along with a bunch of other high-achieving kids. That's because an engineering company opened up a branch near that town and brought in a ton of engineers and their families. So it was a sleepy town with a big high school that suddenly got a ton of competitive kids. And I mean insanely competitive. Nobody had time to think about popular kids or really anything but college admissions. I was only getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night regularly. Sports like football or cheerleading, which required 5 days a week of training at school, were out of the question. And I saw the same people regularly because we were all in the same classes. So all of the drama was contained within that group of 50 to 100 or so students. It paid off for me. I got into a top college and had no student loans. It was literally cheaper than the state school. And despite my auto-generated username, I do have a good job that I enjoy. My boyfriend said I'm lying. I don't like being called a liar. So I literally reached out to all of my high school nerd friends, and yep, they didn't know the popular group and the ins and outs of the dynamics like my boyfriend thought. A few people recognized some names, but like I said, we were really focused on competing with each other. He got quiet when I proved my case. He said I humiliated him and I proved my point and we should never mention high school again. I talked with his sister and she said that high school was a special experience for him and I ruined his memories. Am I the a-hole?
Not the a-hole. I won't echo that peaked in high school thing, cause while it may have an echo of truth, I also think it's reductive. I think it's more important for your boyfriend to realize that the reason nerds bond together in places like high school, and why weirdos, nerds, freaks, geeks self-identify as such despite implied social stigma, is that it's a conscious act of defiance against the notion that their self-worth is solely defined by the dominant social hierarchy.
I'm going to be really honest here. It was not about defiance in any way for us. In fact, we played more heavily into a social hierarchy measured by the prestige of your college and perceived pathway. It was a very competitive and unhealthy environment. The reason I or other people didn't care about popular kids or freaks or weirdos because they weren't competitors. My boyfriend was a student athlete who had great stats. We would all have known and cared. It's not a good thing, but it's the reality of many high-achieving students in high schools.
Not the a-hole. It begs the question why your boyfriend feels the need to feel superior in your relationship.
He doesn't really have a superiority complex. He just saw those TikToks talking about my boyfriend-girlfriend in high school versus me and thought about us because we were in high school. On the flip side, he loves those jokes about one person having a silly job, like him, while their partner has a serious job with real-world ramifications. I think he just liked the idea of me having a crush on him in high school back in the day when life wasn't complicated and real.
I get it, but I don't. Your high school experience can be sacred to you without feeling the need to harp on if your long-term relationship idolized you in school.
Ugh, not one of those peaked in high school kids who always want to talk about it. What does high achieving you see in him? His scenario is the basis for many cheesy movies based on high school.
He's got a ton of qualities that I love. He definitely consumes too many cheesy movies, but I can't complain when he loves romance movies, maybe more than me.
Then, hopefully he lets this all go and stops thinking you somehow won the lottery with him.
Update. This is crazy. I didn't expect so many wild replies. It's already on TikTok. I know my boyfriend isn't a loser still stuck in his glory days in high school, so I talked to him and asked why he was upset at me not knowing him in high school. Well, he told me he did have a passing hallway crush on me, mustache, eye bags, and all, which was flattering to hear. He felt defensive because I kind of stomped all over his daydreams of fleeting thoughts of each other. He also literally thought I was lying because he knew of me and he thought wrongly that I would know him. I hate being called a liar, which made me go on the warpath. Don't worry, I didn't tell my friends why I was asking about my boyfriend's friend group, but they'll probably figure it out. He apologized and we hugged it out. Honestly, these comments were really wild. People were salivating over my boyfriend being this apparent loser jock character. I wasn't making a statement about anything. My boyfriend and I just ran in different social groups, neither better nor worse than the other, while maybe mine was slightly more toxic. We had different social experiences, with good and bad points. I can't believe the number of stereotypes about nerds, which I never considered myself LOL, or popular kids in these comments. I was definitely not taking a social stance by not noticing the popular kids, they weren't in my radar. I missed way more days of school than my boyfriend for competitions for my clubs. As a boring person, I didn't have any drama, but I witnessed a lot. There were always parties and sneaking around. But there was always this undercurrent of stress that dominated my school life. I don't regret high school and I'm grateful for the opportunities and experiences, but I don't want to go back. I'm not better or worse than my boyfriend because of my high school experience. We're all just people at the end of the day.
Am I the a-hole for not financially supporting my family anymore and abandoning them in their time of need? Some context. I'm a 31 male with a 25 sister who lives at home. My parents are in their 60s. My mom and sister have never worked a real job other than under-the-table things like babysitting. My dad was the only earner in the family. They were making it by until about 10 years ago when money started to get tight. My parents' house went into foreclosure and mom still did not get a job. I gave them money to try to help. They lost the house anyway. Again, no job was secured by my mom. This was 10 years ago. Fast forward to today. The house they live in now is in foreclosure again and no one seems to have a sense of urgency to seek employment. Turns out money was tight these last 10 years because my dad was a functioning opioid addict. He really started to spiral the last 6 months and is now in prison for the next 2 years. I have always been the person in my family to pick up the pieces and be the one everyone turns to. Since my dad has been in jail, I have not talked to him. I have also stopped talking to my mom and sister because they have not paid me for bills I have in my name that they are responsible for, but yet they send my dad in jail money. I gave them months of encouragement to try to find a job and kept paying the bills while they tried to figure it out. When I have asked for the money recently, since months have gone by with no employment secured, my mom straight up ignored my calls and texts. I'm done. They tell me I'm an a-hole for leaving them in their time of need and they have been trying to find jobs all the time, but it's hard to get one. I call bullshit. I'm tired of being the fixer. I'm tired of being an enabler. Am I the a-hole for not paying for them anymore and for not being in their life?
Not the a-hole. Although my friend and family situation wasn't quite like this. I was always the one holding them from falling apart. I saw my best friend and my dad as victims of circumstance and bad spouses. I wanted to help them. After decades when they got out of those relationships or circumstances, they didn't change. I realized they were never a victim, they're choosing this. I am no contact with any of them now. It was a painful lesson that took me a good 25 years to learn. They have to want to change and they don't. Let them hit bottom. They will either sink or swim, but the outcome has always been on them. It's never been on you. It's okay. It's not your responsibility.
This is the answer. They've clearly been choosing to stay unemployed, choosing to refuse to help themselves. They will not choose to stop using you. So you have to choose to stop being used. Sometimes easier said than done, but still simple.
Not the a-hole. They think you are the a-hole because you are making them change and not allowing them to continue mooching. They're gonna hate it, but they are going to have to find their big girl panties and go out into the world and work. Not the a-hole.
Not the a-hole. Your 25-year-old sister doesn't work? Think about that. Did you work at 25? Your sister and mother are having a permanent vacation on your dime. Nice life if you can get it. Turn off the bills in your name tomorrow. Slowly reduce the amount you give them each month with an end date that you tell them. This will help with your feelings of letting them launch. For example, give them 6 months and reduce the amount by 15% each month.
Not the a-hole. If they are two able adults, instead of sending money, send job ads, not cash. I am assuming your mom takes care of the house, so I am mainly speaking about your sister when I say family is supposed to help, not sponsor siblings in their race to become couch potato blobs.
What do you think of these stories? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories.